Today we are going to look at how to factor a trinomial, and as you can tell from the directions, I'm trying to make this a product. That's why I'm saying factoring, but right now it's all addition. So there's going to be some way for you to make this a product. So before we do that process, let's remind ourselves, how did the trinomial get there in the first place? So if I look at a product of two binomials like this, you're going to remember that you had to do distributive property with the x and then distributive property with the 8. Here I have the area model shown. It's just an easy way to see that you're going to have 4 products. But the middle two were both x terms, so they ended up combining. That's why I only have a trinomial here as an answer. So when I start you with a trinomial, most of the time, it's because it came from the product of two binomials. And notice there's no common factors here. I can't say divide everything by 5 because there's no number in front of here. So you're looking at this and we're trying to work our way backwards and figure out which two binomials made it happen. Now just observing, I just want to take a look at what I see. This x squared came from a single product. It came from the first number times the first number. So that was nice. Anytime something comes from a single operation, it's a little easier to predict. So when I go to this original problem that I put up on the board and I say factor a trinomial, well, that front number just came from a single product, from a single operation, which was multiplication. So I know in order to get x squared, it's x times x. So that's a really nice start. I've already got half of my problem done. I solved what's going to go in the front. Now the problem, when I go to this 40 in the back, is it only came from one multiplication, but I already gave you the 5 and the 8 here to get the 40. When I give you this problem, you don't know what created that 12 because you can't see this part of it. You're creating this part of it. So where it's just a single multiplication, it's predictable, but you've got more than one choice. So this 12 could have been 1 times 12. But it could have been 2 times 6 that made that 12. Or it could have been 3 times 4. The good news is I'm limited to just these options. There's no other way to multiply and get 12. So I took care of the front term already. X times x is x squared. I know that the back term is created from a single product. These are all of my possible products. That middle term, though, is created from an addition, from adding 2 terms together. So now I'm going to look at all my possible products and I'm going to say which of those products can combine to give me this middle part. The only way I can get 7, this gives me 13, this gives me 8. The only way I can get 7 out of these factor pairs is to choose the 3 and the 4 and to make them both positive. That's the only way that I'm going to get a positive 7 out of there. Now notice, they multiply to give me plus 12. They add to give me positive 7. So that's why I'm choosing to use this factor pair. Only 3 possibilities. I chose the one that could give me the middle. Now you can just take my word for it. It's right. Of course, you can trust Mr. Fitz. But if you take a look and distribute this, you're going to notice I get x squared plus 4x plus 3x plus 12. If I put those together the same way the area model did, I'll end up back here. So you don't have to do that. That's not part of the answer. The answer is what's written here because the directions said factor, which means write as a product. And you've written this as a product because it's a binomial times another binomial. That's why you've met the condition of factoring. Now, if I gave you a second example that maybe had some negatives floating around in it, I want you to know that the process isn't any different. I'm still doing the same thing with the front. I'm still doing the same thing with the back. So if I did x squared and let's say minus 4x, and let's give you a number that's a little more fun to work with, we'll call it. So I'm going to pick a number like 32. Maybe a few more options on that. So I know right from the beginning, I'm going to take care of that before I even do anything else in the problem. There's only one way to get x squared. It comes from a single product, x times x. Halfway done with the problem, just like that. If only math was that quick, right? But then I have this number at the end. Remember, the number at the end also came from a single product, but we need to know which single product did it come from. Did it come from 1 times 32? Well, I have to get a negative this time, so one of these is going to be negative. So if I subtract that 31, I'm not getting to 4. So let's look at another one. Let's say 2 goes into this number. I could have 2 and 16. But if I subtract those, I'm not going to get all the way down to 4. These factors need to be pretty close to each other. I can divide by 4. If I divide that by 4, I get 4 times 8. Aha! If I subtract those, I can get to the 4. Now, you're just going to have to make this opinion as you look at them. You'll get more comfortable. Instead of memorizing and trying to figure out when the sign is this, the sign is this, and I put it there, you can just reason it out each time. It's either going to be negative 4 plus 8, or it's going to be positive 4 and negative 8. So you're just going to figure out in your mind, if I'm looking to get a negative here, I'm probably going to want the negative to go with the bigger number. So I'm going to assign it to this, and I'm going to see what happens now. If I multiply those two numbers together, I do get a negative 32. And that's what I was supposed to get when I multiplied. If I add them together, positive 4 plus negative 8 is negative 4. So I'm going to get the middle number. So I know that these are, in fact, the two numbers that I needed. I'm just going to write that negative 8 as a minus 8 when I put it into my answer to avoid double signs. I don't want double signs. And I know it's right. I can check it in my head. I get x times x is x squared. I'm going to get negative 8x when I multiply here, positive 4x when I multiply here. Those two will combine to give me the negative 4x. And then I'm going to have the negative 32 at the end. So we just did 2 examples. Some of them had just positives. Some of what you see will have just positives. Some of them will have some negatives thrown in. Really, there's a variety. You could have a plus and a minus, or a minus and a plus, but you'll be able to figure it out once you do enough of these. You're trying to figure out what's going to multiply to give you this, and add to give you this, and you'll just play with the numbers to make the signs work. So that is how to factor a trinomial. Enjoy the sheet.